We are so excited because we have a magnificent entrepreneur. I was talking with him a few minutes ago, Max, and we will talk about his resume and his bio. And I'm very excited. I want to introduce myself. I am Dean Morote, Dean of the Graduate Studies, and I am fan and I love and I'm passionate entrepreneurial studies. So we will soon will have something with entrepreneur in our graduate studies. So let me begin with reading our guest, uh, Maxana bio. Maxana is a seasoned automobile industry expert with 20 years of experience in sales, FI, compliance, and dealership management consulting. His goal is to help car dealers improve profitability while increasing customer satisfaction and retention. Zanan published best-selling books, Perfect Dealership, Car Business One-on-One, Art of the Science of Running a Car Dealership, and Effective Car Dealer. Zanan is a thought leader, organizer, and a perfect leadership conference. Wow, I would like to go to that conference like that. Keynote speaker and frequently quote in trade publications such as Automotive News, Fix Up Journals, and Auto Dealer Today. He's the founder and CEO of IDDS Group and Total Leader Compliance. Zanan utilizes all of the skills he has picked over the years in order to cohesive mentor dealerships on how to increase revenue and profitability. Zanan is our John Jay alumni. So that will be very interested to learn what Zanan did when he was in John Jay and how he become this amazing entrepreneur that he is. So Max, could you please tell us about yourself, a little bit about your journey from being a student in John Jay and then now a super entrepreneur?
I'm not sure about super entrepreneur, but I think my story is pretty similar to many stories at John Jay. I was born in Moscow, Soviet Union, and I came to New York when I was 16. And after finishing high school, we're talking 94, there was a movie that came out with Tom Cruise. It was called The Firm, where he
The
played
firm, okay, okay.
when he played this amazing attorney. And I was young and naive, and I figured, this is exactly what I want to do in my life. I want to be an attorney, and and I went to John Jay, and then I went to St. John's Law School. And once I got there, I immediately realized that this was the wrong decision because it was so boring. And people in my class, half of them were students that didn't get accepted into a medical school. So law school was like a plan B for them. So they had zero passion for the law.
Wow.
And I realized that, what am I doing here? This is terrible, right? And again, I didn't know what to do with myself. So I went back to John Jay to get a master's in protection management. And it's exciting, because you do things that James Bond, gets to do in his movies. Unfortunately, when I graduated, I couldn't find a job. And when your back is against the wall, you realize how unpredictable life is. And I started selling cars.
So you will hurry to start selling cars. Like, let me just try to do that.
And the reason is because it's commission work.
That's
And
true.
So when they hire you, they really have nothing to lose. Meaning that if you don't sell anything, they really don't have to pay you anything,
Wow,
right? So it's all commission.
full commission. So you really need to sell something to make some money.
Exactly. There's an expression: you eat what you kill, and this is exactly what it is. When you work on commission, there is no guarantee of any kind, right? Everything is entirely up to you.
Wow,
Meaning that you can get some basic training, let's say about cars or about certain sales techniques, but at the end of the day, it's all mental, right? It's a mental game. It's very similar to sports, right? If you play basketball or you play hockey or football, you are as good as your last game. And if you're not good, right, you're not going to play the next game.
that's
And if
true.
you're not, and if you're not playing, they're not going to renew your contract. So same thing here. You have to realize that it's entirely up to you whether you're going to be successful or whether you're going to be a failure. It takes the same amount of time.
So you put a line here like this. Either I make money and convince my clients and figure out how to play this game, or I just have to go to the street.
Right. And again, I think the key here is that when your back is against the wall, when you really don't have a plan B, you will try your hardest to do whatever you have to do. But if you can say, well, if it doesn't work out, I can go back to live with my parents, or I can, do something else. You don't have 100% commitment, so you're not going to try as hard.
That's interesting. That's the reason sometimes when people come, when the immigrants come to this country, they don't have any option that succeed. There is no other back. So when people who come with nothing else, that's it. They have to succeed. So I think that's I can contrast that because I am an immigrant, so I can see that I said I need to pass on my courses because I don't have other option.
And I have to tell you, there's a huge difference between the first generation immigrants like you and I
Mhm.
and the second generation.
Yeah,
It's like people are from two different planets. And the second generation, I have to say, is not as hungry as the first generation. And the second generation doesn't try as hard in most cases because they do have a plan B. They can't fall back on their parents, and it's not as frequent that you see second generation to be as aggressive or as successful as the first generation in any business.
I was mute. Talk me now. So you are working, trying to sell the cars. Okay, you're through trying to sell the cars, surviving, and then how do you start moving up? You start having like a training. How do you start learning? How do you start deciding how can I sell those cars?
So, everything is training on the job, right? And that's the real world, right? No college, and I don't care if you go to a business school, right? No college or business school can prepare you for the real world. Real, belly to belly interaction with your coworkers, with the clients, and you have to be quick. You have to adapt, and you have to have a discipline, meaning that you have to have a plan. You can't come to work and just sit at your desk and wait for someone to come in and say, "Hey, Max, will you sell me a car?" That will never happen, ever. Has never happened to me. So you have to go in with a plan, and that plan can be very many different things. Back when I started, it was before social media. So you would do it differently. You would do it through personal contacts. You would do it through email. You would do it, just by posting ads, on the bulletin board, saying, like, at your local laundromat, saying that, hey, I sell cars. If you ever need a car, call this number. So you have to go and network. You have to go and get your own clients. Of course, dealership has, let's say, an advertising budget that is designed to bring customers in, but not all of them are going to come in and see me. There's 20 other guys and girls on the floor selling cars.
Most of the initial job is really body to body. So you need to make those phone calls, you need to make those contacts, you need to start calling those people. I relate a lot because the same thing when we do enrollment and we want to create a new thing, I really base on my connections. Connections. That's what really is the first thing.
Exactly. And now, the world is changing, and with social media, you can reach so many more people. And if you are creative, it doesn't cost anything. We're not talking about any investment here. You can create videos on Instagram. You can be on Facebook. You can be on Snapchat. You can be on Twitter to reach so many people. You can be on LinkedIn. If you think about it,
Yeah,
and you can make it known that you exist, that this is what you do, and if they need it, whether it's a car or whatever else you do, they know how to find you.
exactly. So now you can even put, I was talking yesterday in another conference, uh, you can put pictures of your cars. You can say, you can show you a very happy closing a deal, and people start getting curious and liking, and the connections. I say, oh, you know what, Maxan knows where the cars are. You know what, Maxan knows where the deals are. So the seed is always word of mouth, even with social media, it still is word of mouth.
Right. You need both. You
Yeah,
cannot. So the problem that the younger generation, the social media generation, has is that oftentimes they spend all of their effort on social media, and they lack the interpersonal skills.
yeah,
Because yes, you can get me with your stuff on Instagram, and at some point I'm going to come in and see you, right? And when I see you and you can't put a sentence together in real time, right, I'm going to lose all confidence in your abilities to sell me anything.
exactly. So when you sell something, you sell not a car, you sell a pleasure, you sell something that's useful for the person, for a family. So you as a seller, when the person comes, you actually study the person, correct? You study what are their needs.
So believe it or not, you sell yourself,
Yeah,
not even the car. That people have to be comfortable and confident that you are the person to buy it from. Because the car, let's say you're in the market for a new car. Let's say you're in the market for, you're not sure. Maybe you want a new Toyota or a new Honda, right? But at the end of the day, they're both new and they're both great cars engineered by superb engineers. And they're pretty much priced the same. So which one are you going to buy? You are going to buy the one where you made the best connection with the salesperson, where
that's
they
true.
made you feel comfortable.
That you trust on that person. You created that trust and say, you know what, if I have a problem, this guy looks like can I can call him back.
Or he knows a lot about the car, right? You can come to a dealership and you start talking to a salesperson, and the salesperson has no idea what they're talking about. It's still the same great car, but because they have zero product knowledge, you lose confidence in the product also.
Oh, so you need to study your product. You need to love your product.
Correct.
or your service.
So believe it or not, a lot of times knowing your product can help you overcome all your other deficiencies in sales.
Love it. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love. I love it. As a dean, you see how I contrasted, because as a dean, my first thing task was to learn every single masters and love it one by. I needed to love it like this. So I understand, because when I need to talk with somebody about my product, in this case, the masters, I have to be able to explain it, to see how it works, and and it's the same with the car. I mean, I need to connect that with my own reality.
And you have to be excited about it, right?
You need to love it.
Exactly, because this excitement is contagious.
Exactly.
And you're right, whether it's a master's degree that you're selling or a car, right? If you can't tell me anything about the program, or if you seem like you're really not excited about it, it could still be the greatest program in the world, but I wouldn't go for it.
Yeah. The client knows just by your eyes, the way you smile, they know that the product is, you are excited or not. It's how you behave, how you smile, how your attitude, the is immediate is captured. So the person has to be in a state of mind to sell the product
and,
in
and
this.
I wish they taught that in school.
Yes. It's,
And they, at least in my case, they didn't, so it would have been a little easier. Like, I'll give you a good example. When I was in John Jay, I hope it's the same way now. Public speaking was a mandatory class that you had to take to graduate. And everybody dreaded taking that course because everybody is afraid of public speaking. And I am no exception. I was afraid of public speaking. That course didn't help me get better, and now looking back, I can say why. The reason why is because they never made a connection why you need public speaking. And the connection is very simple. And again, public speaking doesn't mean speaking in front of thousands of people. Public speaking can be speaking about a car or about a master's program in front of two people.
yeah,
It's still public speaking, right? So the connection that was not made is that the better you get at public speaking, the more successful you're going to be. Because communication is key. It's the communication that allows you to succeed, nothing really else. You,
yeah,
you know? So I read many articles where they make a connection, between public speaking and income, where the better you get at public speaking, the more money you make if you measure success in dollars.
very good.
And I was, if there are any students listening now, I would encourage them to take public speaking and really maximize every opportunity to get up, overcome that fear, and go and speak about any subject. And you will realize that it doesn't matter what you're talking about. At the end of the day, you're trying to sell it to the audience. And you need to know your stuff. You need to be excited about it. You need to be animated about it. That's what sells. That's what life is all about, communication.
Now, also, you were telling me before that in reality, we all are sellers. We all sell. We all sell ourselves. We all sell our product. So it is necessary. It doesn't matter what career you are. Doesn't matter what are your plan. You need to learn how to sell, how you present how you present your product, how you present your company. So it is a need. If that's what you go in the conference that you created, that probably is the most important
Well,
lecture.
again, if we're talking about students, right, and I'm being a former student, uh, you will have to sell yourself at a job interview. It doesn't matter if you're going for civil service or you're going into private business. You still have to sell yourself, right? Because most likely there is more than one person applying for that position. So, what is it that makes you stand out from competition? And let's assume for a second that everybody who's applying is a straight A student like you are, right? And everybody who's applying has the same experience as you are. How will the employer make a determination that it is you who they want as opposed to, five other people? And at that moment, you will realize, again, it all comes down to your interpersonal skills. If you go, you're confident, your body language, right? The way you smile, the way you say hello, the way you shake hands, all these little things matter. And again, knowing that now, I wish I knew it when I was in college.
Yeah, we all wish to learn things, but then we learn it the hard way. We learn it
Right.
the hard way. Now, tell us about your typical day. How is your typical day now that you wrote now you are a CEO of these dealerships? What is your typical day?
So my job is to help car dealers be more profitable. And it might sound counterintuitive to people that are not in automotive retail, because you might think that, they make a lot of money selling cars, and it's not the case. It's really, really competitive, and it's very difficult to make money. So because of that, people like me exist. We help, dealers see it from a different perspective, meaning that I don't have any secret sauce, right? There's no secret formula. There's no secret word track that I can give them. But what I can give them is this. I can come and look and basically audit the way they do business and tell them objectively whether it makes sense, whether they need to make some minor tweaks, or whether they need to make some major tweaks. And at the end of the day, it is entirely up to them if they're going to do it or not. And again, I'll give you a perfect example with generations. If I'm speaking to a first generation dealer, they're very receptive. They're willing to make the changes. But if I speak to a second or third generation, they don't want to rock the boat. They're very steady. They are not as passionate about the business because in many cases they didn't choose to be in it. Just life happened, the family was in it and now they're in it. So that's part of the day. The other part of the day, especially now, right, is because of COVID, we now do everything via Zoom. And in a way, it actually simplified my life because it saves a lot of time on commute,
That's true.
right? It
Yeah.
saves a lot of time
I
on.
think life will be different now because we already tried Zoom. We know we can do some work via Zoom. We don't need to go and travel the entire traffic. So it will be changed now. Even when everything go back to normal, everything will be back to normal.
Exactly. So you have to spend a lot of time, doing Zoom calls. And again, the interpersonal skills become even more important via Zoom because you're not in the room. There's no physical contact. It's not like you and I can go, and have lunch right now and have this conversation over lunch. This is a little different. So this is even harder and more important now.
Yeah.
And that would be the other part, and then I spent some time either writing articles, like a thought leadership article, or again, participating in a conference. Again, I'm talking about pre-COVID, when we actually had conferences.
Now you have online conference.
So I'm really disappointed with online conferences, because they're just one long webinar. In reality, right, in real world, a conference is
Is
as
a
much,
connection.
exactly, it's as much about networking as about learning the subject.
Networking 100%. You
Right.
create your family, your friends there. Every year you go there, you go. Yeah, conference is highly important for the connections. You
Exactly.
enjoy the you enjoy the conference, but you meet people who are like you, who have the same passion like you. So you create friends, friends for life.
Exactly. And that's almost impossible via Zoom.
Yeah.
So I
Now
think it would be,
they asked me a question here about your publications. They want to know about your books.
so I wrote 4 different books. The first book I wrote, it's almost like a textbook. It's called Perfect Dealership. It was me laying out my vision of how I would do it if I had to own or run a car dealership. So the second book that I wrote, it's called Car Business 101, is the flip side of it, meaning that the first book I wrote is almost like me talking about a perfect world scenario. The second book is because, again, I used to be in dealerships every day. I would see the difference between what I wrote in the first book and what actually takes place in reality.
That's true.
So the second book highlighted the insanity, right? This total insanity that goes on in a car dealership as compared to what it should be. Then the third book was written to really explore other profit centers, meaning that you don't just make money selling cars. You can make money selling parts. You can make money fixing cars. You can make money selling, car insurance inside a car dealership. You can make money doing body work if cars get into car accidents, right? So there are many different profit centers that I try to tie in all together. And the last book I wrote is about how the business is changing and how COVID actually accelerated that change.
COVID just push you to the pool to start. The change was coming in a slower rate, but COVID just go and that's it.
Exactly, exactly. And again, listen, human nature, and you probably know this better than anybody, right? Human nature is that we don't like change. So, so believe me when I say that most car dealers are not happy that they have to all of a sudden make all these changes. So my last book, is talking about how to readjust so your business can thrive in this new post-COVID environment.
That disrupted changing.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, because how actually I believe when you if you are like entrepreneur like you and you have all this experience and not only that you have the time to sit down and meditate and put that in a book, so you have time to actually uh, analyze your day experience and say, okay, so this is happening, how I can do better. So when you have this disruption, that's the moment that you even grow more because you are ready. You are ready for the, I believe when there is more crisis and disruption is when the entrepreneurs, when the true entrepreneurs, they're able to, boom, okay, let's find a solution to this problem.
So I have to say, this would be my third crisis, right? So when I started, right, we had 9/11. and back then you would think it's over for car business because it's really not that important to buy a car after 9/11. People had
Right.
different priorities. So that was the beginning, right? For me, my first crisis. Then came 2008 financial crisis. And
Mhm.
now came COVID. And I want to tell, the students that most likely in your life, there'll be many crises, maybe one every 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when you graduate John Jay, and let's say you're 21 years old, and you're planning to work for the next 40 or 50 years, you have to mentally prep yourself that the world will be coming to an end every 10 years,
That's true.
right? And if you can make it through each crisis only makes you stronger. So again, you have to be mentally prepared, know that economy is cyclical, life is unpredictable, and you ultimately control your destiny. So it's how you react to all these changes.
It's exactly how do you react or when there is a crisis and start to being creative, because you were saying, okay, we can not only sell cars, we can sell insurance, we can sell this, so you start creating all these alternative products that ultimately help the business.
Exactly, exactly. And again, listen, in the business world, right? There are winners and losers, right? Not everybody gets a trophy,
That's true.
right? And I think the younger generation, the students in school, really need to hear that. It's not like you think it is. So you have to again be mentally prepared to take constructive criticism and get better, right? Because I didn't learn everything on my own. I had mentors, right? But I was willing to listen. I was willing to take the constructive criticism in a positive way, as opposed to overreacting and say, you know what, I don't need to hear this. I don't want to know that I suck at selling cars. Quitting. It just doesn't work like that. You really have to be ready to be flexible and find good mentors.
I think that's a great advice because sometimes when people graduate, they say, you know what, I already have a master's, I'm so smart, you don't have to tell me anything. But you know what, everybody have experience and so to transmit, and you need to learn about that. So there's another question here appearing, and they were asking if you ever went to a bankruptcy. If you ever were, you see, not necessarily, because there's always these stories that people went to bankruptcy or in a
Maybe
financial crisis.
one day in the future, not yet.
Hopefully not, he say, no. Yeah,
Right. But
because most of the fears is not having the money. When you are an employee, you receive money every month. So they were telling me if you are an entrepreneur, there will be days that you don't receive any money.
correct. So I remember when I worked in a dealership and my job was to hire salespeople. They would come in for an interview and I would ask them, would you like to make a $36,000 a year salary and no commissions, or a zero salary, but you'll make $100,000 a year in commissions if you're good? What do you think? What was the breakdown?
I would say 80% wanted the 36,000.
You're right.
Really?
You're right.
Because that is scary. I say, oh, I getting or zero or 100.
Right. But the right answer is give me zero salary and give
Yeah,
me an opportunity.
because those are the ones who will work it. Those are the ones who will really do the work.
And also, another takeaway that I can say, again from experience, is that not everybody is cut out for private sector, and you
Right.
really need to know yourself. because some people, they cannot handle that stress of zero salary. Because if I had to give you a definition of entrepreneurship, the first thing I'm going to say, it means zero salary ever. Not on the first day, not on the last day, right? If you own a business, it's zero salary.
That's true. That's
So
true.
if you cannot deal with that, don't do it. There's no shame in it.
Well,
We
every entrepreneur needs an employee, so you can be the employee of entrepreneur.
exactly. But you really need to know yourself. And the only way to do it is to try, right? You don't need to ask. You don't need to ask me. You don't need, they don't need to ask you, right? They need to try. How do you try? You go and you get a summer job, and see if you can handle the pressure of a private business. Because again, it doesn't matter what private business does, there's always pressure.
Yeah,
Well, you think there's no pressure at Goldman Sachs?
of course they are. Especially the private business. If you don't work, if you are not productive, more likely you will be out. So it's not like, oh, you know what? I have tenure. I come here forever. You need to like me.
Right. Well, let's say, like when you go, let's say to like, if you look at, let's say private banking, right? And everybody around you has an MBA from Harvard. Everybody around you is a brainiac, right? So it's who is going to outwork who can deal with pressure, who can be more productive, who can be more hungry, who's going to come at 8 even though business opens at 9, who's
That's
going to
true.
stay till 8 even though business closes at 6.
Yeah. It is
But
it is matter of passion.
correct.
Another question they're asking about the families, how the families react with that high risk personality.
It's a tricky question because it does, there is an effect on your personal life. Because when you are passionate, you are consumed by the business. And in many instances, you will be spending countless hours there. And it might look like you are neglecting your family. But in reality, you're working hard to provide a better life for them. And they need to understand that. You're not out there, partying, and doing stupid things. You are at work trying to maximize every opportunity and trying to provide a better living, for your spouse, for your children, for your parents. And there's no shame in that.
Yeah, it is another word. And then some of them become family business. So the kids will be learning. You know what I really, when I was teaching entrepreneurship, and there is a survey to evaluate if you will be entrepreneur or not, there was a question that if you have a family who are entrepreneurs, you more likely would be easier for you be entrepreneur.
Correct.
And I was, because you live between them, you see the environment, you see the dynamics. And I was like, wow, my parents are not entrepreneurs in that time, they were employees. I was like, wow, I want to be entrepreneur, but I lose in that point. But the fact that if you don't have a family who are entrepreneur, we go to this conference, go to these places that you can actually learn how to do it.
Or, when you start working for somebody in the private sector and you see how successful they are and what kind of a lifestyle they have and what kind of a lifestyle they can provide for their families, all of a sudden it becomes real. Because when you're in a classroom at John Jay and somebody tells you about somebody else, it's very far removed. But when you go and all of a sudden you see it with your own eyes,
Yeah.
you
That's
know,
the reason we're talking to you, because we want to see a real person.
right? So then it becomes real. It's not some hypothetical, and we're not talking about something, we're not talking about anything complex here. We're not talking about creating a software or an app. We're talking about working hard and being in private business. And again, private business means that you sell something to somebody. It
Así
doesn't
es.
matter what it is. You want to sell security services? You can be the best security guy in the world, but if you have zero passion, zero interpersonal skills, breaking news, your security company is going to go bankrupt.
That's true. You need to have the passion. Okay, so we are about to close this. There is a one question more, but guys, if you have more questions, please post it there. I'm reading from both places for the Q&A. So what advice? So you're giving a lot of advice. I am excited. I really absolutely love your style, because I learning for my own well, you know. So what you will do, somebody who is thinking to follow your path. So John J. current student is looking at you at this moment and say, you know what? I did this master's and I want to do something with that. Not only going to the employer, be an employee, but I want to, be an entrepreneur, do something. What would be the advice for
Learn to deal with rejection.
them?
Don't take it personally. It's the numbers game. It doesn't matter what you're selling, right? So let's say you're selling yourself, right? And you go into 10 job interviews. It doesn't mean you're going to get 10 jobs. Most likely you'll maybe get one. So that if you can deal with 9 rejections in a row, knowing, you see, you have to be mentally strong enough to know that after the 9th rejection, statistically speaking, the 10th should be okay. I should
Yeah,
get it on the 10th attempt, right? So the same thing with sales, right? Let's say I'm selling cars and you are come in and you say, well, you know what, Max, the car is great and you are great, but I got to think about it. And you leave. Chips away at my confidence, right? Next customer comes in. I got to think about it. Chips away even more at my confidence, right? So if I can't control it, at some point, I'm going to think that I'm really terrible at this. I shouldn't be doing it. This is not for me, right? I'm going to go home and cry on a pillow, right? So you have to deal with rejection. So for example, if you want to sell something, right, and you're thinking about doing it privately, go and try selling it to your classmates. Go try selling it to the businesses around. Go try selling it on the internet and see if you can take rejection. Because I guarantee you, you will be rejected. It doesn't matter what you're selling, right? Thomas Edison has been rejected thousands of times,
yeah.
right? Before he invented electricity, right?
Yeah, he says 1% inspiration, the rest is just rejection.
Right. So unless you can deal with rejection comes in many different ways. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to say, you know what, go away. You're terrible. We don't want it. People are never going to do that. You know, they're going to sugarcoat it. So you don't think it's rejection. They're going to say, well, Max, we're going to think about it. I'm going to speak to my spouse. I'm going to sleep on it, you know, and we'll be back. Or we'll call you next week. Right? They're just saying no. And
That's
then,
exactly the means no. When they say I have to think about that, they say, oh, forget it. Yeah, that's
right,
it.
right. So
Don't
I
keep thinking about that. Just do
so
it right now.
exactly. So the main takeaway is that you have to be mentally be prepared to deal with rejection. And the second takeaway is you have to have incredible self-discipline. Because if you work for yourself, there's nobody standing behind you, breathing down your neck, saying that, hey, Max, you have to do it. You know, and that's why working from home because of COVID is also not for everybody. Because unless you have this discipline, you can say, well, I don't need to do this Zoom call. I'm just going to go take a nap. I'm going to go watch TV. Or I'm going to go
Exactly.
play
Go
video.
to the refrigerator, eat something.
Right. There's so many distractions.
Yeah,
So you need to have this self-discipline and keep going and going and going until it becomes second nature.
that's good. So we have our last question of the day. Today is actually the International Women History Year. So they're asking how is the business, the dealership business for the females?
So I have to be really frank with you. It is incredibly easier for women to sell cars than for men.
Really? That's a
And the reason why is because, believe it or not, most women are the true decision makers behind buying a car. So when a couple goes out to buy a car, the woman's opinion matters much more than the men's, because women are much more practical. Any guy would just say, yeah, give me the two-door car. Is it fast? Good enough, And women would be like, no, we need four doors. We need
yeah.
something safe, something for the baby, something for the dog, right? So for women, relating to other women is so much easier than for men. Because,
Wow, that's
the
good to know.
men are
So
from Mars and women are from, we're not from different planets. So the hard part for women is that selling cars, like any other retail business, requires long hours, right? Because you have to be there to sell cars. You cannot be there and sell cars.
yeah.
It's the same thing like, working in Bloomingdale's, right? You have to be there. And Bloomingdale's is open long hours. So as long as you're willing to make that commitment, then you'll be super successful.
Yeah, because sometimes your clients can call you and say, you know what, I coming after work. They expect you to be there, or I want to see you on Sunday or Saturday. So you just have to be there because they want to see you, not the other person.
Right. So this is the difference between, private sector and public sector. In the public sector, some government agency can say, well, no, Max, we close at 5, and if you can't make it, see you tomorrow, right? But in the private business, they will never tell you this, right? Say, yes, we close at 5, but since you're coming, we're going to stay here for you.
Yeah, we're waiting for you. But thank you very much, Max. It was amazing. I really enjoy your experience, and your experience can be transmitted to any business. Believe me, even to educational business. When you're talking, I feel like I cannot interrupt Max, but I was thinking this will be exactly what I need to do in order to sell the ideas. Um, so thank you very much, all the people who have been listening. I see the questions coming. And thank you. And I will see you in the next month that we will continue. So we are beginning this will be every month. We want the students to start having the experience to talking with an entrepreneur, because we are creating a new career advanced certificate in entrepreneurship. Max, you will be our MBT. You need to go and come with your new students because your experience needs to be transmitted. And we really appreciate your time today with us.
Listen, first of all, I'm honored that you invited me. And I hope that post COVID, we can do this in person.
Yes, definitely.
I would love to come back to John Jay, and really do this in person. Because again, in a face to face environment, I think we can be much more effective.
Yes, yes.